What I am about to share will make you see the world in a new light. Imagine a continent burning for months, 1 million hectares reduced to ash. In places that used to be cool, the air has climbed to 40 degrees. People die from heat and entire cities are evacuated. Economic losses run into tens of billions. Nuclear plants shut down for lack of cooling. Yet the heat gives rise to fires so vast they are visible from space. This is Europe. While the world watched Europe burn, something darker formed in the Pacific. In 4 days, a low-pressure region became a monster. Winds nearly 300 kilometers per hour, waves as high as a 4-story building, and a central pressure beyond what meteorologists fear. When it struck Asia's densely populated coast, the aftermath began to be studied for generations. About 2.5 million people were evacuated in haste. Satellites recorded something extraordinary. As rescuers cleared the first debris, a second monster formed offshore and began moving toward the continent. This account examines what climate change is doing, why Europe burns, where new hurricanes head, and why scientists warn that disasters are growing stronger. The year 2025 will be remembered as the moment Europe began to burn to ashes, defying all norms. Europe heats about twice the planet's average rate, and this year may rank among the hottest in history. A pensioner in a Portuguese district found himself trapped by flames after refusing evacuation. He survived only by luck. In Spain, red alerts persisted for weeks. Authorities asked for help from neighbors. France sent 2 firefighting aircraft, yet it was a drop in the fire. At the season's start, almost 11,000 people were evacuated, and forecasts remained grim. The Catalan regional president declared that today's fires are unlike those of the past, and he is right. By expert estimates, fires across the European Union are unprecedented. In Romania, 12,300 hectares burned, far exceeding previous years. The total area burned in Europe surpassed 600,000 hectares, larger than Slovakia's. Numbers tell one story, but human tragedy tells another. France's red weather alert spread to 12 departments, with 3 people hospitalized and 2 killed. Even as the world warmed, authorities suspected arsonists in the south, numbering at least 25 individuals. But the main drivers were not arsonists. The fires coincided with a heat wave, the most intense on record in Europe. Its peak produced the hottest 10-day stretch in Spain since at least 1950. Across Europe, nuclear plants began reducing output as temperatures rose. Extreme heat hindered cooling, prompting temporary pauses or limits at several plants in France and Switzerland. During a period of many heat events, 77 episodes occurred, 6 of which exceeded 4 degrees Celsius, and 5 of those happened after 2019. The EU's civil protection mechanism was activated for the first time to assist with forest fires, and by the end of August it had been invoked 17 times. Scientists point to 3 causes behind this anomaly. First, a stubborn anticyclone trapped hot air over the continent, creating a heat dome. Second, sea surface temperatures in the western Mediterranean ran 9 degrees Celsius above normal, boosting heat inland. Third, climate change makes heat waves more frequent, intense, and long-lasting. Together with high temperatures, prolonged drought, low humidity, and strong winds, these conditions fuel firestorms. Meanwhile, on the other side of the world, September 18th saw the western Pacific begin forming a typical tropical low-pressure area north of a certain island. Few could have foreseen that within 4 days Ragasa would become a killer, perhaps the most powerful storm of 2025. In that brief span, the cyclone intensified by 8 levels, a pace meteorologists had never seen. At the storm's center, winds reached 265 kilometers per hour with gusts near 300. The eye's pressure plunged to 905 millibars, a record low seen only twice before, turning Ragasa into a gigantic funnel of death. Warm Pacific waters fed the beast, heated to record highs. Ragasa gained strength swiftly as it bore down on Asia's densely populated coasts, threatening millions. On September 22nd, Ragasa struck northern Philippines as a Category 5 cyclone, a wall of wind hundreds of kilometers wide. Authorities declared the highest danger level and began mass evacuations, moving more than 430,000 people. In Batangas, many sought shelter in basements as the wind ripped roofs and downed trees, leaving districts without electricity and at least 28 dead. But that was only the beginning. Ragasa did not weaken over land as it aimed toward Taiwan. On September 23rd, it reached Taiwan's eastern coast, where disaster followed in the mountains. In Hualien, a July landslide had formed a natural dam, behind which a lake had grown. 70 centimeters of rain from Ragasa in a single day overwhelmed the dam, releasing 60 million tons of water into the valley. Rescuers struggled through rubble as the flood washed away a bridge and hurled cars and homes like toys. The streets lay under mud and debris, and locals said they had never seen anything like it. Ragasa, far from spent, drew new strength from warm seas and turned westward toward Hong Kong and southern China. By September 24th, Ragasa neared Hong Kong, where the International Financial Center prepared for the monster's arrival. Residents sealed windows, stocked up on water and food, and tethered anything that could be blown away. The city held a breathless, almost apocalyptic stillness as the storm approached. Chinese authorities did not take any risks and ordered the highest level of emergency response. In a matter of days, nearly 2.5 million people were evacuated. Imagine entire cities emptied in a single day. In Guangzhou and other megacities, public transport ground to a halt, factories shut, and schools closed. Even the renowned Macau casinos closed for the first time in years. The city, home to 700,000 people, became a ghost town. Then the typhoon struck Hong Kong, with winds reaching 150 kilometers per hour. Storm surges rose 4 meters above normal, and seawater boiled like a cauldron. Dramatic scenes unfolded at a luxury hotel as waves smashed a glass door and flooded the lobby like a mountain torrent. Emergency crews logged more than 100 downed trees in the city center, and Hong Kong International canceled all flights. 140,000 passengers were stranded in terminals. When the surge hit the Chinese city of Yanjiang, its force was equivalent to a Category 3 hurricane. Winds ripped trees from their roots, skyscraper windows shattered from pressure, and construction cranes bent like reeds. In Zhuhai, something not seen in 30 years occurred as water rose 4 meters above normal and flooded the first floors, while footage from Macau showed streets waist-deep in water. The tourist and mountain resort area resembled Venice, though without romance. Yet the worst seemed not over, as meteorologists warned of a new storm forming in the western South China Sea. The cyclone Buolai was named and was headed toward regions still reeling from the previous strike. On the 25th of September, the tropical storm Buolai began to intensify. Filipinos, only just beginning to clear debris, watched satellite images in horror as the new cyclone bore down. On the 26th, Buolai struck central Philippines with winds reaching 150 kilometers per hour. Another 400,000 people had to be evacuated. Buolai became the 15th tropical cyclone to lash the Philippines in 2025. Normally, there are fewer storms in a year, but none recall such intensity and frequency. Buolai brought a fresh wave of destruction, roads becoming impassable, ports closed, and power out. Urgent efforts were needed to clear debris and restore communications for the delivery of humanitarian aid. Residents recounted terrifying details as floods rose within hours, with some roads remaining submerged into the next day. And the danger was far from over as Buolai moved through the South China Sea and intensified. Moments later, Rogasa intensified into a full-fledged typhoon and veered toward Vietnam. Vietnamese authorities, wary after the devastation seen in the Philippines and China, chose not to take chances. In Da Nang, 200,000 residents began evacuating. 4 major airports suspended operations. The typhoon battered the northern and central coast of Vietnam, unleashing torrential rains that triggered severe floods across low-lying urban and industrial areas. Experts warn a repeat hit is likely, and the typhoon season lasts through November. Even if this storm weakens, additional systems could form in the Pacific, so coastal communities in Vietnam, China, and Japan must stay vigilant. Scientists weigh in on these anomalous cyclones. Typhoon Rogasa stands as a stark example of climate-linked risks. Analysts say warmer sea surface temperatures directly amplified the storm's strength. Researchers from the Central Climate Institute attribute Rogasa's rapid intensification to unusually warm waters in the South China Sea, making it the strongest typhoon this year. Climatologist Denel Helfort stresses that this factor substantially raised the probability of swift strengthening. Philippine and Indian scientists warn that the region may face even more destructive events in the future, and that super typhoons could become more common. An expert from an Indian institute also notes a rise in powerful cyclones and heavy rainfall amid climate change. The atmosphere holds more moisture and waters run hotter, fueling stronger storms. Asian cities will need to continually revise protective norms to cope with stronger winds and fiercer typhoons. Researchers also point to climate change as greatly increasing wildfire risk. Firefighting systems in many countries are near or at their limits. The only viable path is to preemptively adapt landscapes to resist fire, while humanity continues adjusting to the new climate reality. In 2025, the planet has entered an era of climate catastrophes. Europe burns, and super typhoons become more common. Old rules no longer apply. The climate behaves as if it has entered a self-destructive regime. What once happened once in centuries now recurs every few weeks. This turning point, a moment of no return, marks a shift to new rules radically different from what we used to know.